Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's Jack and Flobo Wrestle With Your Questions, and we are coming to you live from sunny Los Angeles, California. And have we got a show for you? We've got Cole's contract coming up. We've got open challenges by Cody Rhodes, and we've even got an announcement about The Rock and Rager. But before we get started with all that good stuff, allow me to introduce to you my amazing co-host, the guy that I love chatting about all sorts of random shenanigans with. It is the host of the AfterBuzz WWE Raw after show, the NXT after show, What's Up Flobo, and all sorts of other amazing programming. Let's hear it for Flobo Boys.
Yo, Jack, I'm in the chat looking up, scouting, having time of my life. I agree with Haywood Wong. Your voice sounds like Velvet, baby. Yeah.
Yeah, this is something I'm really proud of, actually. And before we get going, my name's Jack Farmer. I'm the benevolent fancy Jack Farmer, the host, I guess the co-host, whatever the case is.
Do it all.
But something, we've said internally, I don't know if we've said it on air yet, but we're still in what I would call beta phase of all this stuff. We're still figuring some things out, and I'm really, really excited about finding ways to upgrade this show and make it better every step of the way. And the thing I've been working on a little bit behind the scenes.
It's replacing me, first of all, but then after that.
As you, yeah. But I'm trying to figure out how to make it better, how to make the production better. And so the first step has been, I don't know if you've been watching the AfterBuzz shows, and this show's for everyone who's watching. You may have noticed that you've seen me in different rooms and in different places because I'm trying to figure out the right setup with where I'm at and trying to get a little bit of a studio going in the homestead, I guess. And, now I'm working on microphones and I'm working on lighting and things like that. And so got the new microphone. This isn't even a good microphone. This is a cheap microphone I got for free with the mic stand. So next time we should have a really, really good Shure mic. I always say wireless mic.
They haven't paid us yet, Jack. What are you doing?
Sure. Hey, yeah, sure. If you want me to tell everyone that you're great, then you need to pay me. But so this is just the first step of many. And Flobo, I cannot wait till you can come by the studio and we can start doing these things face to face. I can look you right in those big, beautiful eyes and say, welcome to the podcast.
I just want to give a shout out to the Ms. Farmer out there being so patient with you setting up every episode in every house. She's kind of like, what's going on over there? I'm doing my studio. I thought it was upstairs. It's downstairs now. But yeah, I can't wait to do it live because I feel like you are building something really cool over there. And even though I love hanging out in my bedroom, I've seen these walls for the past 3 months. I'm kind of over it. So the other half is definitely a saint for putting up with me moving around and moving lights and microphones and things like that. Because as you know, the other side of the camera is never pretty. It's dangling cords and a bunch of ugliness. So, I want to chat with you a little bit about you being in your room and you being in your house. You've been playing a little FIFA. How's FIFA going? Oh, can I tell you about FIFA for a second? Wow. So long story short, my third year of college, I studied abroad. I went to Costa Rica for about 2 months in 2006, and it was the first day of the World Cup. It was Costa Rica versus Germany in Germany, and I saw the whole country shut down, and I was a huge soccer fan from that point on, and I bought every FIFA game from 2006 to 13, with the last one being on the Wii, and I was like, this is kind of lame. so I put it down for a couple of years, but EA had this deal with Xbox or Microsoft saying, hey, look, get it today for $17, and I was like, well, that would have been a DoorDash order. I could eat crackers for a couple of days. It's all good. And I've just been hooked of the presentation of how one of the cool things for me is that voice is actually a call sign in the game. That was a big deal for me because it was FIFA that didn't have voice as a last name, where I picked the last name at random, Reyes, in which, if you guys know me from the show, I always say my alter ego is Flobito Reyes. It came from FIFA. So it was kind of cool to be immersive and draw your own face. And my story is I'm an 18, now 19-year-old American wonderkid who played in Australia for a year, but got drafted to Red Bull Salzburg in Austria. I've been deep, man. I love it. making your own character in games gets more and more sad as you get older because you start off when you're a kid and you're like, I'm not even 18 yet, but I guess I'll say I'm 18 in my character, and then you slowly get past that age, and then you're like, I'm gonna make my character way younger than I really am, and there's that little bit of a nut shot.
Yeah, exactly. Got a full beard. I'm 6'5", 18.
Yes. I've always wanted to get into soccer, into footy. It's always been something that's been on my radar, but I get so caught up in obviously pro wrestling, and I'm an NFL guy, and time-wise, it's so hard to get into it. But when the World Cup rolls around, I get really into it. My favorite World Cup story is I was sitting at a bar in between meetings one day back when I was going around doing door-to-door sales. You know my background when I was doing some business development for a DJ company. I was at a bar hanging out for lunch, and old Germany versus Brazil came on in the World Cup, and I was like, this should be a good time. And then a bunch of Brazilians came in, and I was like, this should be a really good time. And that was the game that Germany just crushed.
That was a 7-1 game, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And
man.
It was the most depressing scene to be in. I was just like in it for fun.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, oh, whatever, we'll watch this game. And in my mind, I was like, man, Germany actually, like, that was actually the first game I think I really appreciated what good soccer looks like, because Germany was just so on point and you could see what they were doing. But just, I mean, there was tears around me. People were crying. They were like holding themselves like, oh my God, this is horrible. And I was like, yeah, I'll cash out, guys.
There used to be a Brazilian restaurant at the end of my block, and that day, you know what it feels like? It feels like those cheap action movies where like the flashbang goes off, you hear no sound, but everyone's just like crying in silence and stuff. It was gross.
Brazilians are, by the way, when they're winning, are probably the most fun group of people to watch a sporting event with. I watched them in a different game when they won. We hardly watched the game, man. They were just doing conga lines and playing drums and music and stuff. It was just like a giant party the whole time the game was on.
Yeah.
Speaking of games, I just wanted you mentioned you're playing FIFA. I just wrapped up Witcher 3, which is probably one of the biggest and deepest games I've ever played. I'm a big fan of those big adventure RPG open world kind of games where you get to explore every little nook and cranny, and there's a little story, and you get to make decisions, and it impacts the stuff. I like all that stuff. I always feel like there's definitely a psychological test you could probably do on people based on how they answer questions in video games.
So this is the first time I've heard about the Witcher series. Like, what is it? Is it like a Game of Thrones thing? Is it like I've seen the music video, throw a coin to your Witcher, but what does that really mean?
I didn't see the music video, so I don't know how well that represents it. But it's I didn't really. I just heard Witcher 3 was really, really good. I hadn't played any of the other ones. It's based on a book series. It's kind of a cool world. It's one of those, like, I guess Game of Thrones things where, you know, you're a dude with a sword and you run around and you're killing things. And but a Witcher in this world is a mutated human, and it's their job to basically go town to town. And if there is a monster in that area, the town pays you to kill the monster. And so you're kind of like a monster bounty hunter is how I would simply... I'm sure people who are fans of it are like, well, actually, there's a lot more to it. But the simple way to say it is you're a bounty hunter against monsters, you know? It's an incredibly deep world. It was probably the most time-consuming game I've ever played. And I just finished Red Dead Redemption 2. Yeah. So that is saying something. It was fun. If you're into those kind of games, they're cool. It was very much a, like... It felt very much like being thrown into the middle of something, like, and you just got to figure out what they're talking about because they do not do a very good job of explaining what certain things are. But it was fun, and now I'm watching the Netflix series, which is, it feels like they needed a little bit more of a budget, if I'm being totally honest. But it's interesting. I like watching it because I liked watching it because I like seeing the characters go, oh yeah, that's the character I know from the game. But the budget's not very good.
See, now you're saying no budget. I'm just thinking like Dog the Bounty Hunter with like superimposed like swords and like a monster. We gotta get him. You know,
I mean, you can tell like they did a good job with what they had, just knowing how production works, knowing how budgets work, and things like that. But you got to. Oh, Anissa, you played it. Thanks for joining us, Anissa. You played it and got bored. I could see that too, because again, it's hard to. I think I almost cut it off because it's just hard to understand what's going on. And it's a lot of stuff. But I don't know if I'd be able to finish it if it wasn't for quarantine. But the fact that I've obviously got more free time allowed me to dive into it. But what I mean by the bad production value or the low budgets is just you can tell when there's a bad green screen behind people, and sometimes it looks like maybe they should have done a few more takes of a scene. If that makes sense.
I hear you.
You can kind of see where some of the stuff isn't real. You can see where it's a set in certain places, which kind of takes you out of it. But because I've played the game and I know all these characters, when a certain person walks onto the screen, I go, "Hey, I know that person."
Right.
And it's kind of fun in that
That's
regard.
Awesome. I'll check it out after I finish my FIFA career and I win all the championships.
And so that was a very long small talk portion of the show. Let's speak of small talk. I want to transfer into something that I think was kind of the biggest news of the week, something that sort of blew up Twitter. A podcaster, another individual who likes to review shows, JD over with Off the Script, had some takes about Alexa Bliss that were a little offensive, and she found out about it. Someone clipped out the show and tagged her, and so she found out about it. She responded and was none too happy about it, and it got a lot of backlash based on what he said. The story's kind of come and gone at this point. It happened. It blew up, and now it's gone away. He's apologized, which I think was the right thing to do. But I want to bring it up, one, because it's just a big story, and two, the wrestling Twitter, wrestling social media can become such a toxic place of bullying and anti-bullying. I want to talk to you, first off, obviously bullying's bad, but has anti-bullying almost become the new bullying on social media?
It's a double-edged sword, Jack. I mean, there's always a sense of justice, especially Alexa Bliss. Specifically, her career has been rife with people that thought less of her because of her size, her stature, her body, and all that. And so there's a bit of a mob mentality. You want to cape or stand for people we love. But I think wrestling Twitter is a microcosm of any kind of subsection of Twitter. When we feel someone is wronged, we like to hoard up and insert justice. Because if no one caught that guy, you probably will go on and say it the week after. You and I both saw an overcorrection just a few short weeks ago in front of our social network, how bad it could be. But ultimately, it's a force for good. Sometimes it can be too much of a good thing. Like, you don't want to mix bleach with ammonia. But, I mean, ultimately, they're
Are
better
those
than
good things? Too much of a good thing.
I just, hey, man. Lysol was out of stock, so I had to make things happen in my kitchen.
As a podcaster, as a person who speaks live on TV, there's this part of me that, like, when I hear it, I say to myself, yeah, that probably went a little too far. But there's also this part of me that says, when you speak live, sometimes you say things and you go, oops, I shouldn't have said that. And you come back later and it's like, my bad. So, like, for instance, some talk was happening on Twitter just before this show about how I apparently said Otis is not a good Money in the Bank winner. I don't even remember saying that, but apparently I did.
You did not say that. I remember that specifically. I believe Jim Alexander said it, and you'd been, and that was interpreted as you agreeing with Jim, you heel. But that's how it happens sometimes. You just don't know. And you're right. Things can be clipped out of context, and then either you have to be like, oh, I didn't say that, or wait, I did say that, but that was 15 years ago. For you wrestling fans, especially ones of a certain age, I think people in their mid 20s to about 40, the one that came of age during the Attitude Era, we remember being marginalized for liking the wrestling. So when someone attacks something that we love, like as adults that we have the power now to stand up and say, hey, buddy, remember 10 years ago when someone just like you put me in the toilet? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like we overcorrect that way because we were so close to being on the outside of things. But yeah, Jack, why are you a heel?
Yeah, it's funny. Someone on the show's always got to be the heel. Like, as soon as Jim departed, suddenly I got named the heel. I feel like I'm a very likable guy. How am I the bad guy?
They called me heel pizza on Wednesday night. This is all right.
I'm a little more heel on the AEW show, to be fair. I like to stir things up a little bit. I think it's fun. As far as the negative comments to go, something that stands out to me, because what happens, it seems like, is someone says something mean, and then the response is, bullies should die, let's gang up and kill them. And then the response is, you're just as bad of a bully. We should gang up and kill you. And the war keeps building, and the war keeps building. It reminds me of something Jamie Foxx said. Jamie Foxx, by the way, in my opinion, possibly top 10 most entertaining people of all time. I mean, he can sing, he can dance, he can do stand-up comedy, he can act, he can be serious, he can do pretty much anything you need him to do. He's going to be able to pull it off pretty well. You're doing the maybe, maybe not. Fair enough. Point is, he says he doesn't read any comments at all. He doesn't, I think a lot of us are like, hey, just ignore the comments. I like his, just don't read them because it's going to feel bad. And Jamie Foxx, like, I will never do stuff again if I read that, and I'm going to feel terrible. If Jamie Foxx says that, we probably shouldn't either. So my opinion is if you think people are saying negative things, just don't even read it. Don't even give it a go. I know I have some people who aren't a fan of mine when I do on AfterBuzz. I get some hate mail. Whenever I see stuff from them, I just don't even read it. I don't even open it. Don't even look at it. That's my take on it. Just
I wish you told me that earlier, Jack. I read everything and get really mad, and I eat my feelings. And I think you're right. I think it's good. We've been here long enough at AfterBuzz to be used to it. The first couple months, especially for me, but back when I got hired at AfterBuzz, it was more of a smaller group for the wrestling. It was like the Fun Dad and Evan, that crew, and I was a new person. I didn't think I'll have a place there. I read every comment, and I took everything to heart because I didn't know what the crowd wanted, I feel like I hear so many wrestlers say, when I started, I just smiled, I didn't know what to do. I get it, because I totally did whatever I thought would have worked so people would like me or keep me on, and I read everything. But yeah, there's a point now where you go, okay, I know when I do a good job, and I know when I do a bad one. Let me just not read, hey, we should cancel Flobo because we hate the fact he's bald or whatever.
Yeah, you've gotten a cancel Flobo comment before. I was told that they wanted to find me dead in a ditch one time, which was one of my favorite.
I remember that one. Yeah,
favorite put downs. But this is the real thing I want to get to about is. As people who speak on a show like this and people who have podcasts who review things, we always have to walk a tough line. And I want to kind of hear your take on this, because if we just say everything is great, then we're called shills, or we're boring, or we're not honest with ourselves. But if we say negative things, then we're too negative and people think we're not fans. How do you find that balance of also if you just say I like this, I don't like this, people say you're not interesting. We want hot takes. People love hot takes and that kind of stuff. How do you look at yourself? Like, how do you think of balancing the hot take, saying things are good, and the negatives that, hey, this needs help, this needs work?
It is hard. It's our platform, so I could be as candid as I want, right? It's hard because AfterBuzz has a mandate more than other channels to look for the positives with our wrestling shows. And at first I used to hate it because I was like, well, what if something really does suck? But they have a good point, and that is, it takes a certain kind of person to stay up on a Monday night on the East Coast and watch 3 hours of wrestling and stay up to watch you at midnight Eastern. So I'm a firm believer is try to find the positive about something, but if you don't like it, you gotta have a reason why you don't. Even if you're wrong. If you're like, hey man, Flobo, you're off base. Bobby Lashley is amazing with Lana, But if I passionately say, I don't like the fact Bobby Lashley's with Lana because of this and that, then no one can fault you for that. I'm not saying he's trash. I'm not saying she should jump off a bridge. I'm not saying, how dare he, and I think that's the difference. I think you can be critical and negative and not be mean-spirited, because if someone comes at you with the issue, you can say, I logically meant this. But every network is different. Every job you'll get is different. Your own platform may be different. In the mid-2000s or the mid-2010s, it was hot to be the negative person. Angry video game nerd, irate gamer. That was a very specific time in our history, but we're kind of moving away past that. AVGN is still there, but everyone loves personalities. Everyone says, oh, Simon Miller is great because of what he does. And I think a lot of us can follow that blueprint. Nice question, Jack. Appreciate it.
Yeah. It's something that I got to agree, and I always think.
Bless you, Amy. Bless you.
Thank you, Amy. Always glad to have you in the chat. Thanks for joining us. Something I always try to look at is, one, the basic. If you're not willing to say it to their face, you probably shouldn't say it on your show.
Sure.
Which, funny enough, the first take I ever had was one about Bobby Lashley on AfterBuzz. If you can find the episode I was on, my first episode on AfterBuzz, and as soon as I said it, I thought that was inappropriate. I shouldn't have said it. It wasn't that bad. I said his mom doesn't even enjoy him as a wrestler, or something along those lines. And I was like,
Heel
oh
Jack
man.
confirmed.
As soon as I said that, I was like, that's mean. That's not a fair thing to say. And I wouldn't say it to his face, so I probably shouldn't have said it. But it was the first thing I said, and you're looking for your chance to like get in there, because especially it was you and Jim I was with, and you guys talk, so like you got to fight for your spot in the chatting there. So one, if you won't say it to their face, you probably shouldn't say it. But also, something I've always learned is, and we learned this in DJing, is you should always focus on what you want, not what you don't want, right? It's like when someone comes up to you as a DJ and is like, hey, can you play something that I enjoy? Yeah, can you play something we enjoy and we can dance to? I don't like this song. Cool, I'll play this. I don't like that song. Cool, what about this? I don't like that either. There's a million things you don't like. What do you like? So what I like about you in your argument, and we continue to use Bobby Lashley, is we'll talk about how I like the Lana line, and you don't. What I like is you don't say this is stupid. You say this is why I don't like it. I would like to see them find a way to do this to make it good. You got to find a way, like, if this is bad, what would make it good? As opposed to just, this is stupid. This is, going back to like the Otis comment, like instead of just being like, Otis is stupid. He's never going to get over. He can't wrestle and people hate him. Okay, well, what do you do to make that work? How do you make him work? Instead of just being like, yeah, he sucks. Like, you got to find the good. What do you want out of this?
True.
And of course, being realistic to the parameters of what you have. Don't be like, yeah, he could just drop the title and then they could sign Cody Rhodes back and then they could.
So many phantom GMs in wrestling. They should go over here.
Yeah. But you had something that you wanted for so long, and it finally happened this week. And I know that on the Raw after show, we've got schedules. You don't get to chat about things for very often. So I want to give you a little bit more time to shine. Your boy, Apollo Crews, is the new U.S. champion. How you feeling about Apollo Crews?
Ooh, it was cool that he won, but on the bump Wednesday when he held that title over his shoulder, it automatically looked legit. Now, most wrestling fans who follow the E will tell you there's so many people on NXT that got ruined when they got sent up to the main roster, and there's some that disappointed. We always talk about Ty Dillinger was a bigger deal in NXT, Bobby Roode, Shinsuke Nakamura. There's some characters I thought improved once they got to the main roster. I'm looking at Nikki Cross, I'm looking at Asuka. But the thing about Apollo, he went from being like this blue chipper prospect, just being a guy in the back, running for the 24/7 title without any rhyme or reason. When you talk about the tools, right? He was young, he was strong, he was a powerhouse type and a high flyer type. I mean, he's an okay looking guy, not as cool looking as me, but pretty solid. Why not give him, and that theme song? Dude, that's like my second favorite, like, run to the street theme song, right? It sounds like a hero's coming back to you. So for years, I will go out there and advocate for this guy. And even though I bought his shirt, but when it first came out, when it was just a gray t-shirt with his logo on it, which we saw on the NXT show, I felt like I was talking to a wall. I was like, you gotta give him a shot, man. 3 weeks ago, or 4 weeks ago in Raw, I said, I'd rather have Apollo over Lashley. And both you and Jim were like, Flobo! But now he's the United States. Now, granted, the United States Championship is a title that it's in transition. We don't really know how important that is. But if he's acting like how it should be important, then this could be the start of something cool. So I was all excited about that. And of course, my boy Evan Mack on the bump this week dropped my name, and Apollo Crews was like, "Yo, they tell him thank you." I was beaming, man. Haywood Wong hit me up in the chat right when it was happening. It was dope.
Dude, yeah, that was literally the next thing I want to talk about. Evan Mack shouting you out on the bump. I don't care the fact that you're buds or whatever. It's still got to feel crazy that you were shouted out on WWE programming to an amazing wrestler that you're a big fan of, who just won a title that, hey, everyone else kind of poo-poos on the U.S. title. I was a WCW guy. I have always loved the U.S. title. It's always been a little bit close to me in my heart, but I never say it because everyone's like, the IC title is the best.
Yeah. The Canadian Championship.
So that had to be amazing.
Here's some behind the curtain stuff. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say it, but I think it's pretty innocuous, so I'll share it with you. That Apollo Crews, and you'll notice it too, that Apollo Crews interview was recorded on Tuesday. Because Apollo slipped and said, "Oh, last night I won." So the fact that got said and it stayed in the interview, it wasn't like someone in WWE being like, "Who's the Flobo?" Cut. They actually kept it in there. It was like really cool. And the fact that Apollo was like this most naturalistic time being like, "Oh yeah, okay, we'll hook him up." I was like, bro, it's amazing.
That's so cool. And something I wanted to touch base on with that, and kind of circling back to what we started the show with social media and things like that, is people don't understand the power of likes and comments and things like that, and responses to people. I've had a few that have come and gone in responding to me. Like, look, Lance Storm has interacted with me a few times on Twitter. As people know, Lance Storm is my guy. I love Lance Storm. Totally made my day. Jericho's retweeted me. That was really cool.
Yes.
I just want to kind of spread the love and sort of spread the thank yous to the people that have interacted with us on social media, because it always feels great. Like anytime it happens, people are excited about it and they'll screen grab it and things like that. Who are some of your favorite people that you got the chance to talk to that you never thought you would, now that you are pursuing this whole wrestling punditry position?
It's funny you mentioned that, because especially now in quarantine, it's very easy to get burnt out and be like, ugh, another Raw in my bedroom. I have to like move my dirty laundry over there. Jeez. But this thing has been a ride. Interviewing Kofi Kingston was like tops. MVP actually followed me about 4 or 5 years ago, if you could believe this. The story behind that was he did a quote from the British show Sherlock, and I finished the sentence. He goes, I'm not a psychopath, and I'm a high grade sociopath. Get it correct. And he goes, I'm following you quick. I had forgotten about that years ago, until this year, where I did a video saying MVP was the greatest character of all time. He retweeted that on Monday Night Raw. I didn't even tag MVP. I was like, LOL, what does MVP do on his phone? Playing Snake? And he responded, Tinder. I was like, oh, I forgot. You can see my stuff. So that was always cool. Having Apollo like that clip out yesterday was awesome. And I think that the thing about wrestling punditry is anyone can do it. And this is why everyone thinks, I'm going to have a wrestling show. But what sticks out, and what I like to think is the paying dividends, is the weeks you don't feel like performing are the weeks where people need you the most. When it's Memorial Day and it's the day after Memorial Day and you're like already lazy, you're already like ready to go to bed. Oh wait, Raw, we're going to give you 100% of the Raw show. Those are the episodes people remember. And they go, man, you were there 3, 6, 9, 12 months ago every single Monday, I hope. So I'm going to give you that love,
Yeah, sometimes it is tough. It's tough to do, and it's easy to say, yeah, not this week, not this time. But I think that it's that reliability and coming through all the time. MVP shouted out Defy Wrestling, who that's my baby, Defy Wrestling. I like to push them all the time. Hey, Matt retweeted you and said follow Flobo. So you gotta,
and he followed me too, but little too late to. I'm not too enthused, Matt Farmer.
Yeah, it's but I like to remind that, and I want to bring that kind of stuff up because I think it's so easy. It seems like it's easy to be the person that just says, this is stupid, you're stupid, I'm so much smarter than you, and I know wrestling so much better than you, so and just make everyone feel bad. But it's so easy to just like a comment and say, hey, that's an interesting take, that's pretty cool. Can
I say this though, Jack? Yeah. You can have those moments, but they got to be few and far between. And I think I've been on AfterBuzz for about 1.5 years now, and I think I had 2 rants in my entire time. And one of them was defending Bayley about how she's a good wrestler.
Yeah, that's not that you got treated like you were so mean, and all you were doing was like, I really like Bayley.
What a loser! That wasn't like heel bitch was invented. So.
Yeah. It's okay. Again, it's okay to not like everything. We don't all like we don't like everything. There's stuff I don't like. In fact, if you want to know the stuff I don't like about wrestling, most of the time you can just see what I don't talk about. That's kind of my that's kind of the tell. If you want to know if I like something or not, just see what I talk about and see what I don't talk about. That's usually the giveaway. If I don't,
all
like
I'm saying is every week when Anissa is not on the AEW Dynamite After Show, there is less Moxley chat. I'm just saying, Anissa, if you're listening, you want Moxley to be mentioned more often. He is the champion.
I like Moxley too. It's just fun. It's fun to tease Anissa. It's fun to tease the people she likes. It's a fun banter. That's why it's funny. Like I said on the AEW this week, I like SCU. I just like to make fun of them, saying I want to break them up because she likes SCU. But I like all those guys. Every one of those guys, I'm a huge fan of. Speaking of though interacting, I took a shot. You know me, Flobo. If there's one thing I am known for, if there's one thing I'll do, if you give me a shot, I'm taking my shot.
Sell out or
every single time. I'll sell out. I'll tell you, if you give me an opportunity, I'm going to go for it. I may fail, but I will 100% go for it. Cody Rhodes said he has an open challenge for the TNT title. Cody Rhodes says he will take on all comers. Now, he didn't quantify that. He didn't put an asterisk next to that. He said all of them. So I went to Twitter.
Okay.
And I said, Cody, I challenge you for your TNT title. I am waiting to hear back from the American Nightmare. I don't know if he's ducking me. I don't know if he's scared because I know I cut a menacing figure. But look, you say it's open to everyone. I know you got Jungle Boy next week, Cody Rhodes. I know that you've got next week lined up, but the following week, Cody,
right.
I'm telling you, I accept the open challenge. Jack Farmer right here. And I know what you're thinking, Cody. I know you're saying, who are you? Just some nobody podcaster? Someone that is never going to be a star? Someone that doesn't deserve to have a title? I know what you're saying because, Cody, you were told all those things yourself. Now, you could take the challenge. You could say, Jack, I made an open challenge. I'm going to accept that challenge. Come on down to Daly's place. Or maybe MJF's right. Maybe you aren't the guy you say you are. Maybe you're exactly like all the other people you used to work for. Anyways, challenge is accepted, Cody. Let's just see if you answer it.
Hold on. Wait. You're challenging Cody Rhodes.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking Bullet Club, New Japan, former IC champion, the guy who totally beat his own brother to a bloody mess a year ago to a match for the TNT Championship.
For the TNT Championship.
Cody's gonna kill you.
Listen,
Cody's gonna kill you.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. I'm gonna take my shot.
You're missing that one too. You're missing that one too. He's gonna beat you.
Can I beat Cody? The odds are slim. Can I get the match with Cody? Odds are slim. Can I get a response from Cody? The odds are slim. Can I get a like on a tweet from Cody? We'll see. I don't know. I'm just saying the guy has always seemed like an honest guy to me. He seems like the kind of guy that doesn't just say things like it's an open challenge and then pretend like that never happened. Continuity is something he's pretty good with. So he said open challenge. I accept the challenge. I'll be there the following week. I'll be there any day you want. I got nothing to do. It's quarantine, baby. I will drive on over. I'll hop on a plane. I'll get in a hot air balloon. And if the wind blows that way, I don't know how balloons work, but I will float until I am above that venue and I will show up. That's all I'm saying. Okay,
and I'll do the candlelight vigil for you after the fact. Haywood Wong says you should tag with him and Emily together, the Nightmare Family. What's up? You and Emily, Nightmare Family, let's do it.
I think if Emily was going to tag team with someone, it'd be with Hobo.
Right, an actual wrestler.
I don't think she would waste her time with me. She'd probably be better off. She said on Twitter she would interview me afterwards, which I thought was the sweetest thing to assume that I could have a match with Cody Rhodes and not be a blubbering mess in pain afterwards.
So, Joe Jack, what were you thinking? I don't know. I'm getting dragged by Haywood in the chat saying I'm not a supporter, but I'm just saying, I'm a realist.
Speaking of unrealistic things, Adam Cole's contract rumors are that it's coming up and it's going to end soon. He hasn't renewed yet. Now, look, He's going to resign with the WWE. Of course he's going to resign. They're one of his golden gooses. They love him. They're not letting him go. And I think he loves being there as well, and he's great there as well. But it's no fun to say he resigned and continue as normal. It's more fun to say what kind of impact would happen if he was to leave the WWE and sign with AEW. Do you think that if he did, now again, I don't think it's going to happen, but if he did, do you think it would be a big impact, or do you think it would be similar to some other people who have resigned and it's cool, but maybe not earth-shattering?
I think that would be the biggest signing ever. Adam Cole still has that I won't say indie flavor, but NXT flavor because he's the NXT champion. But he's appeared on the other brands, even through a Survivor Series. So it is the closest thing to being a top WWE guy without being a top WWE guy. If I was the Phantom General Manager of AEW, that's the guy who holds your TNT Championship. That's your workhorse, because he's proven that at a higher level, or a level as high as AEW, that he can do that for a long period of time. I mean, and he's only 31, I think, tops. I mean, he has another decade career there. I know the IWC, they're like, well, his girlfriend's there, but like, that's irrelevant. I think that Adam Cole is still a hot signing, and if they're already making this work out as it is, I don't think that's the end of the world. Now, if it's a situation where Britt Baker is the one and they're looking to like not having to like hide out in certain venues that don't get seen and just the ease of life, that's something completely different. But I feel right now, if I'm Adam Cole, I'm resigning with the NXT. Why wouldn't I resign? You're in the top faction. You're top of an entire brand. You're seen by 100,000 people live, a million people live every week. I mean, the money's there, man.
Yeah, that's why he definitely won't leave. I think the biggest thing that would shock the world if he left would mostly be the fact that he'd be the first person that left the WWE to join AEW in the midst of being booked very, very well, is why it would stand out. Everyone else who's left was sort of like off TV or wasn't really doing that well, but then they left. But he would be the first one that would have left in the midst of big things. Again, I don't think it's going to happen. I like what you say about him being in the TNT Championship. And what's great about him is I think he could be beloved or hated if he showed up. He could do whatever he wants. He's super talented. I think he would actually be really, really, really well suited for AEW. But again, if I was him, I would stick with WWE, and I'm sure he will. Other things that are sticking around is we got an announcement that Chris Jericho's Rockin' Rager is returning. It's set in sail, Flobo, but the question I have for you, given all that's going on, is it a smart idea to announce something like this now, and is it a smart idea to keep doing cruises?
That is two separate questions. If you're doing the cruise, announce it now so it's less of a shock. And if it's there, then you can see what the pricing and market looks like and adjust accordingly. And even if the boat doesn't leave sail as like a contingency thing, it just stays at the dock for a week, you can still say we had the cruise, we had a big party in the boat. That way it's safe. Why not? It's a unique experience. It sounds like a James Bond villain. I like it. Cruises, though, I've never been on a cruise. I always wanted to. But after, not Ebola, the one right before this one, the norovirus, the stomach illness, after that, I was like, man, if something goes down on a boat, you're kind of on that boat. You know what I mean? At least you can do is stay in your room, and knowing me, I probably got the cheap room with no windows. I can't do that. I can't. So I probably would not be down for it. But yeah, bold move for announcing this cruise, y'all.
It sounds fun. I've never been on one. I kind of wanted to for a long time. When I quit drinking, for some reason, it turned off the idea to me. I wasn't that into it anymore after that, because I feel like the joy of being on a cruise is that you get to booze it up because you're not driving anywhere, and you can just booze it up all day and go see different things. But if you're not drinking, then it feels like you're just stuck. And a lot of the things you do on cruises doesn't seem like it's that fun if you're sober, you know? Maybe.
Jack hates sober fun, confirmed.
By the way, nothing is as fun when you're sober.
Except driving, kids. That's
driving's way
driving's way better. So.
I stayed on the Queen Mary before I moved down here. When I came down to visit one time, I stayed on the Queen Mary just for funsies. And staying on a boat does not have quite the mystique as you'd like it to have once you're actually on the boat.
Sure.
But this is it's interesting because it's a AEW. Is an AEW show last time they did it. Assuming this happens, it's an AEW show last time. But do you think that it's going to stay AEW exclusive? Because it's technically a Jericho thing. It's not technically not an AEW thing.
Sure. The first one was kind of like a blend, right? ROH, independent talents. And AEW, if they're smart, they can say, not that they're smart, if they can have the option to say, hey, look, props on that cruise, we're not going to get involved with that, and it will still happen. I would like to see AEW or Supercards, if you will, but I don't, as long as this cruise is happening, and as long as Jericho is in the inner circle, it would be smart for AEW to keep their assets all together and still brand the cruise the way they did it. But the wrestling fan in me is like, oh man, how cool would it be if Marty Scurll was down there hanging out with Moose?
Yeah, I think it would be. I think that'd be so cool if they were able to get a lot of those other companies together. I could see them getting the wrestlers, but I don't think they would be officially branded that way. I think it would only be the people who are maybe a part of like Ring of Honor, but they're not exclusive, kind of like a Jeff Cobb situation, if I remember how that went correctly, where it's like, yeah, he's with Ring of Honor technically, but he can also go do whatever he wants in the meantime. I think that's the only thing that would happen. I see a lot of it being kind of more like AEW Dark right now, where they have a lot of independent people who aren't really a part of AEW performing. I think it'd probably be more along those lines. Do you think anyone else could do something like this, though? Jericho he's obviously a big brand, but is there anyone else that's a big enough brand that could do something like a cruise and pull it off?
On the independent scene, I mean, a cruise, it's hard.
Outside of WWE, because WWE would
if
that,
WWE had their own branded thing, game over. If The Rock did something on his own, as like a history of myself, game over. Those are givens. But like as far as anyone now that has that kind of pull, I mean, maybe Nick Aldis, but that crew is going to be like very, very small. You and 75 friends will go around the island for a couple hours. That's why I think Jericho's in a good position. He's like a living legend, and that proves it, that he can pull so many different people from both his music side, the wrestling side, his broadcasting side, all together for a second period of time.
Yeah, Nick Aldis too. I love Nick Aldis. I'm such a big fan of what he does in NWA. But if he had a show like this or a cruise, I feel like it'd be the lamest cruise you could ever be.
You wouldn't go on a retro cruise like the tiki things from the 60s or 70s? You know? Just bamboo everywhere?
I feel like the whole boat would be decked out like my grandpa's living room.
Pop, I'm there. Why not?
Now, something funny. You have a funny story about Fozzy, don't you? Speaking of Jericho.
All right. It's not funny to me. It sucked for me. This story is rated TV 14. So there was a time where Fozzy, how should I say this? Prevented a date from going well, if you catch my drift. This is back, they had a couple shows. Their first show was at the Whiskey A Go Go, which is a famous venue in Los Angeles, but its history gets kind of marred because you can basically pay to play. So Jericho was big, but he wasn't huge, right? And he had a show with ZO2 and they were the headliners. And I took this assist lady out. She was on the rebound from her boyfriend and said, hey, let's have a good time and see Fozzy, what we do on first dates, because you both like the wrestling and the rock and roll. And she was totally...
How is that not a keeper?
I know. I don't usually ask women out because I'm afraid.
Story finish, right?
I'm afraid to ask girls out, but I was like, I'm going to shoot my shot, you know? So we're having a good time. We're laughing. We were drinking, you know, but we weren't driving. Uber's around back then. And the Fozzy comes out. It's Jericho. This is like the short hair, like the first side tattoo Jericho phase. And he's like, you guys ready to effing rock? And we're like, yeah! And he goes, all right! So he starts playing, I think, Happenstance? He starts playing Happenstance. Cool, great. She's into it. We get the side hugs. Then we see the eyes, the connection's there. And Jericho grabs this big bottle of water. He's like, let's go! And every drop splashed on this girl, on her face, on her clothes. It went through her shirt, so she's embarrassed because everything's wrong. And she's like, can you tell her to take me home? So I take her home, and I was like, hey, I could call you? And he goes, yeah, for sure. She never did. So I ever see Jericho, it's all his fault.
Jericho, you at least owe Flobo a new T-shirt. That's what I'm saying. An Inner Circle T-shirt. At least a a Stadium Stampede Championship T-shirt. At least.
You have so many of those.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
It's funny, yeah, because if you're someone like Jericho too, you go to so many different crowds and do so many different things. You never realize how many things you do that are probably great for people, and how many things that are like you just crushed someone's day.
I know.
Absolutely ruined it.
I know, man.
Thinking about going to the cruises and these shows again. Haywood had a cool question.
Haywood.
He said WrestleVotes has been asking or has been saying that reports are that by July, the WWE is going to start doing house shows again, and New Japan Pro Wrestling is going to do live crowds with 50% capacity. Before I ask your take, I just want to say I hate the phrase 50% capacity because the size of the venue impacts everything. If you're at, the CenturyLink Field, then it's different than if you're at Daly's place. Like,
True.
You should have a number. 50%, I feel like, is just we're going to let in however many tickets we can sell, and then just say it's 50% of the capacity.
50% of 80,000 people? That's safe.
Yeah. But what's your take on July?
July is kind of quick, and I'm not sure by house shows you mean like, right now we're back on the road, or you're doing like the NXT house loops. Again, I'm a firm believer of easing into the culture of going to a live sporting event again. I think if WWE tried to like go right into Barclays right now, it would be kind of embarrassing. I would rather go to like those like the observatory or the standalone venues and say general admission, here are the spots you can stand. It can hold up to a couple thousand, but it has a cool intimate vibe, like how Monday Night Raw was back in '93, where it was like, oh, it's underground kind of thing, and work your way back up that way, and make the attraction thing you people want to go and buy tickets to.
Interesting. I think July is gonna be a very interesting month, man. This is going to be an interesting summer because from what I've been reading, Walt Disney World is planning on reopening in July as well out in Florida. Florida, they just do not care. They're just like, ain't no stopping me.
That's right, man. For real.
They are guns blazing, ready to go, ready to open up. I have no idea how medical stuff works. I have no idea if things are safe, if they're not safe. I guess I am John Q. America right now, where I'm just like, whatever you guys say, I guess that's what's happening.
Right.
Hopefully everything is, hopefully we find out that we all overreacted. I don't know if we did. I just hope we find out we did, because that's a very easy fix. We go, oh, I guess we can all come out and it's fine. But hopefully things open up in July, and hopefully we all go, everything's okay. But we'll see. I'm sure Disney and the WWE and New Japan and everyone's doing their research and looking at things. So hope for the best there. I'm excited for fans again. I'm excited to hear pops and cheers and boos and all that good stuff. Speaking of cheers and boos and pops and things like that, wrestlers get those on a regular basis. And we also had the question coming in with different wrestlers trading back and forth between the brands. We got the question, if you could do 2 trades in WWE, if you were part of the GMs, you could trade 2 more wrestlers, who would you like to see traded, when, and where? And I'm going to say, for the sake of this, the AJ Styles trade has already happened, and you can't do anything in addition to that. So if you want AJ Styles back, that counts as one of your trades. And you don't have to make up for it either. So you don't have to say, oh, well, this is the makeup for AJ going to SmackDown, if that makes sense.
So am I like a Raw GM, or I'm just like a WWE GM?
Well, personally, I'm selfish. I cover Raw, so I'm being I'm loading Raw up with this trade.
Classic Raw is rating all talent, right? Yeah, okay. And I guess and talent, it's okay if talent is unable to compete now with the lockdown. Like, I can pick like a all right.
Yeah. You can do whatever you want. So like, yeah, you don't have to worry about like, oh, Rude is stuck in Canada. Like, forget that. You can do, or Walter in Germany or wherever. You can just pick whoever. You don't have to worry about that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I would break them up, but I would put Bobby Roode or Robert Roode and Naomi on Raw. I know that the Usos are on SmackDown. That's great. but you can't. Once Naomi came back and lost to Dana Brooke two times in a row and 3 times in 4 weeks, okay, we got to move her somewhere else. And I know Ruby Riott is saying it doesn't really matter where you are. If you're losing, you're losing. But I always felt like Naomi can at least spread her wings there. They need a bona fide face in that brand. So I'll go with that. Naomi and Robert Roode to Raw.
Who would you send to SmackDown in their place?
Nobody. I would send Ruby
Who
Riott.
hasn't been on TV in a while?
Here you go, Ricochet. No, I would send that. I would send that tag team to SmackDown. I would send.
Yeah. He probably would actually fit better on SmackDown.
Two Fly Crew. What do they call themselves?
Are they calling themselves Two Fly Crew?
I think so. Is that 1 pick or 2 pick? But whatever. I'll send those 2 guys.
Those work. I think if I could do anything, I would send Carrillo to NXT, and I would bring up Keith Lee.
You mean send Keith Lee. You don't bring up anyone. It's 3 distinct brands.
It is development. I will beat that drum until we see NXT titles defended on pay-per-views on a regular basis. I will say that.
What?
Why? If they're equal, why aren't they on the same show?
Because NXT is a brand. It's a brand that counts, but it's a separate brand. Seattle's Best Coffee is owned by Starbucks, but it's sold in different stores. Doesn't mean one is better than the next. There's a preference.
But here's the thing: they treat NXT as a developmental brand. It's okay to be developmental. I say it's like I've always said. It's like college football. College football is fantastic. It's great, but what makes it great is it's new. It's people you haven't seen before. It's the developing people. College football would be ruined if they were like, hey, Jameis Winston's having trouble finding a team. Let's send him back down to Ohio University. Like that would ruin college football. Oh, I like Marshawn Lynch, but he's getting older. Let's put him back on the let's say him go to Stanford. Like that would ruin
the
what
XFL.
college football is.
side point. We the XFL back.
I
see what you're saying.
I don't think it's derogatory to say NXT is developmental. I think it's empowering. I think it's cool. I think it's where you find new talent. I think a lot of us are fans of finding the new people more so than seeing the same people being around for a long time. But I would bring Keith Lee to Raw. I think he's ready for that. I would send Carrillo down to NXT because I think he's more of a pure wrestler, and that's where the pure wrestlers do really well, is people who can just show out and do crazy things in the ring. And then I would take Baron Corbin from SmackDown, put him on Raw, and I would probably send someone like Ricochet over to SmackDown. I love Ricochet, but I think he needs a fresh start.
True. I'm with that. But that's the same thing I felt about Balor, and Balor went to SmackDown. It was more of the same.
I don't cover SmackDown. That's for them to worry about.
So send him off a cliff. Great.
A few. Now we did get a few additional questions. I haven't seen any of these, so hopefully you have. But thoughts on The Last Ride and how you compare it to The Last Dance. I haven't seen both, because anyone who knows me knows that I like to binge. I hate waiting for new episodes, so I wait till shows are done, and then I watch them all over the course of a weekend.
Well, Last Dance is done.
That's why I haven't watched Last Ride yet. And Last Dance is just probably coming up soon.
I like the idea of the question, because I know these are very hard-hitting, intense questions about beloved sports figures, and it came around the same time. But whereas The Last Dance was more of like a revisionist history of Jordan, because it's very easy as us to romanticize what he'd done, and he still did it. I'm not taking anything away from him, but The Last Dance really drilled into, here was a man who acted extraordinarily. I really felt like the through line of The Last Ride so far has that, but it's really more about how do you send this transsexual warrior, transsectional warrior.
I was like, wow.
I saw you look like, hey.
I didn't know that about the Undertaker.
How do you send him off into the sunset?
For a second.
How do you set him off to the sunset? And I think that's important. I think that was really more about what that was. I want to find the right ending. I want to find the right way to go out my shield. Has my time passed? Am I going to be someone who said, "Hey, Taker, just stop doing it"? You know what I'm saying? So I think that has a little bit more. It's more bittersweet, but they're very similar. Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you start. Don't.
What are your overall thoughts in general, not just about Michael Jordan, but in general about, I was going to say, about revisionist history for certain people like a Michael Jordan or some people who have maybe some skeletons in the closet, some things that maybe they're not perfect people, but things about, how do you feel about kind of stripping away the negatives and leaving only the positives so that they can be a positive role model even though they may have done bad things? Should we say, no, this person did a bad thing? Or should we say, no, they're great, you can be like them, strive to be the best?
I think it's a little bit...
Does that make sense?
It's a complex question, and that's a complex way too much for this show. But I think it matters. Mm-hmm. It matters less if they're dead. Right, because you can come back with revisionist history all you want. I don't know if you have, mm-hmm. but the revisionist history.
Everyone loves you when you're dead.
Yeah, but the revisionist history, like let's say like a Gandhi or like a Martin Luther King, we take that, we go, okay, despite this is what the good he or she has done. Mm-hmm. But I've lived long enough to find like statues of Bill Cosby turned down. You know what I mean? I've lived long enough mm-hmm. to have scholarships named after, Theranos ripped away because of that. So it's hard to mm-hmm. look at that for people who are alive. As far as Michael Jordan, personally, I always thought something was off with him. I always thought like we said he was the man, but almost like it had like a bit of a mean streak, and I kind of glad it came through with this bit a little bit more. Mm-hmm. But he's not the norm, not at all.
Yeah, it is interesting, like where they were in your life when things were discovered and whether or not they're alive or dead. Because again, as DJs, we saw it big time with both Michael Jackson and R. Kelly having documentaries coming out very close to each other. But Michael Jackson, for some reason, I mean, he's always had some issues, but I know me, when I play music, people were much more willing to forgive and forget with Michael Jackson, but R.
Agreed.
Kelly has pretty much been banned for life.
Agreed.
For most people. And I think it's just because of it happened while he's still with us, and it happened while we're still young enough, where Michael Jackson, most of his stuff came out years ago anyways. He's been dead for a long time, and we've already sort of put our thoughts on what he is regardless of what comes out about him at this point. It's kind of been imprinted.
I agree. Absolutely agree.
Let's mix it up. Let's say something fun. Let's talk about fun stuff.
Now Michael Jackson, R. Kelly? What?
That was weird. I didn't expect to get into Michael Jackson and R. Kelly today. But this is a fun one. It's I like this question. This one I thought about. This one I put some thought into beforehand. What is the movie franchise that you will die on a hill for? Whew. So, like, the franchise that you love, and if people don't love it, you're going to fight them on it, and you say it's great. I'll start if you don't have one.
This is kind of a technical question. What is considered a franchise? 2 movies? 3 movies? A movie and TV series?
Yeah. Maybe, yeah, three things. So it can be like a movie and 2 seasons of a show, or I don't know. Have fun with it. Is one sticking out to you? Is there one that you want to say but you're not sure it counts?
Well, I would say... the first thing that came in my head was Fast and Furious, but I feel mm-hmm. like a lot of people got on that bus, so I want to do something different and provocative. But that's why I was going to say the Men in Black series, but not 1, 2, and 3. I would say 1, 3, the original comic book, and the animated series, because 2 wasn't that good. It was the one that I'll defend. 2 is there.
You gotta defend all of them. You got to defend all of them.
Okay, fine. Then I'll still say Men in Black because there's enough good to erase 2 for me. So Men in Black and Fast and Furious franchise because I'm apparently the most classy film watcher on the planet. What about you?
I like that. I like that you pivoted off of Fast and Furious because Fast and Furious, I feel like The Rock saved that series so hard in the second half of it.
At first.
I haven't seen any of them, by the way. Well, I saw the first one when it first came out.
Don't get me started with The
I
Rock.
want to do I've been talking to Ryan over at AfterBuzz. I want to do a retrospect rewatch, like where I watch them with him and do like reviews, because it'd be funny to watch like the first one with them. Like, here's a floppy disk with some information on it. Some good ones in the chat. I can see the chat today. Jay and Silent Bob. That one came to mind actually for me. That was I really enjoyed that one, especially growing up. I love those. Back to the Future, I love. Christine, great shout out there. Harry Potter by Amy. I've seen the first few of Harry Potter's, but then for some reason I fell off, and I've been trying to watch them. I want to watch, like during this quarantine specifically, I was like, I want to binge these, but I can't find a place where they're all available without having to like buy them individually, and I don't want to do that. It adds up
think they just moved to Disney. No, they just moved somewhere else because they used to be on ABC Family, but I think TNT has them on that. I don't know.
Yeah, they're on. I know they're on like Amazon Prime, but you got to spend like $4 each, and I'm like, man, that's gonna add up. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But I definitely want to see those because I liked them. I don't know. Sometimes like you're into something, and then for some reason it slips off. The one series I love. I love absolutely. Probably my favorite is the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I don't feel like that's a fair one to pick because a lot of people like that. So the one I would say I would die on a hill for is the X-Men series. I loved the first one. The first one when it came out, I was blown away. I love superhero stuff, so I was blown away by the first one. I was blown away by the second one, and the third one wasn't my favorite. But I'm just an X-Men fan, so I still went with it. The Wolverines, I still watched them all. I enjoyed those. First Class, I loved First Class. It's still one of my favorite scenes when the missiles are coming and Magneto's just like and stops them.
Man,
I loved X-Men. I loved X-Men.
Props to loving something, man. Like that is a perfect example of a franchise that's so average. Like I can't hate it. It did a lot. It moved the needle. I can't defend it either. It's just there.
At the beginning of the show, we talked about ways of being positive and disagreeing or saying negative things. And saying props to loving something has got to be the most positive way to say your opinion is terrible.
I did not. I liked X-Men at the time. I liked the Wolverine. I liked Logan, if you want to count that together. And I enjoyed First Class, but the fact that mutants were at the missile crisis was too much for me. But it's fine. I sat through Apocalypse and I was like, I can't, because my ex-girlfriend was into those movies.
Tough.
It was like, why are we here?
Apocalypse was tough. I think this is my thing with what happened to the X-Men series, in my opinion, is when the first X-Men came out, I mean the first one, right? It like set the stage for the superhero genre as we know it today. I think that would really set the tone. And then it stayed right there. And while it stayed there, Spider-Man came out, Marvel, Iron Man came out, and everything kept coming out and kept like getting better and better and better. But X-Men just stayed where it was at, and it never continued to grow, if that makes sense. I think
James Bond and superhero movies.
Yeah, I think that's actually a fair analogy. I also want to throw Die Hard is one I'm pretty into. I love.
Do you count the new ones? Do you count 4, 5, and 6? 4.
I never actually saw the very, very last one. That's why I didn't put it on my. That's why I don't count it, because I didn't see the very, very last one. But Live Free or Die Hard, I think, was the first of the two new ones.
Yeah.
Was so ridiculous. I loved it. I like it. Like, I'm okay with things being silly and ridiculous as long as like they embrace it and they just go, hey, this is silly and ridiculous, but whatever, we're doing it.
I felt like an old man. I was like, this movie's too complicated. I want a building. It was weird. It was weird.
So I like it. I'm a big fan of when shows and movies say, hey, this is what we are, and we are going all in on what we are. And that's what he did. Him like surfing on the back of a jet while it's doing donuts. I was like, this is so stupid. I love it. It was one of my favorite movie-going experiences because it was just so over the top. We're running a little low on time, but I did want to ask you, because a friend of the show, Dylan, has been really pushing us to partake in some rugby. Rugby's picking back up. I'm an NFL fan. I've never watched a lick of rugby in my life. Are you a rugby fan?
Okay, Dylan got to me too because I'm not sure if you know this that rugby was like the last sport to be shut down. So there was a period of about 9 days where Dylan's like, "Look, man, rugby's on. You gotta check it out. Games right now." And I'm like, "Dylan, it's 2:30 a.m. in the States. I'm not looking for I'm not looking for streams of teams now." But you know, it's a sport that I heard about, and there's always that one guy in college who's all about it. You're like, weirdo, you know.
Right.
But
who's ridiculously built for some reason.
yeah, like it was like a head on this like chiseled shoulder piece.
They're built like an average height mountain guy, like the mountain from Game of Thrones, but they're like average height instead of huge. They're always just like massive.
You're not wrong, dude. You're not wrong. So one day I broke down. I was like, "All right, Dylan, just show me something." And it was the game. I think it was like the Eagles versus the Roosters, and I was like, "Oh, I'm interested. I'm cool. I'm all about it. It's a fine game. I don't understand why there's no pads. I mean, how long is a career in rugby if you have no pads?" But I was like, "Cool. This is a cool team. I picked the Roosters. My birthday's coming up. Bought myself a Roosters jersey or kit from eBay. I'm down to watch some things casually. I'm a casual sports fan anyway, so adding another sport casually, I'm fine with. But Dylan has hit me up and was like, "Yo, man, tomorrow morning you watching the game?" And I was like, "The first game's at 3:30. No, I'll see the replay."
I gotta really love that sport to turn it on at 3 a.m. Our mutual friend David Newton has been trying to get me into rugby for some time. He's a rugby fan. So he's been trying to get me to watch rugby. And for those of you who don't know, David is like the kind of person you hate being friends with because he's like this super charming, good-looking, buff dude with a great accent. And everything he does sounds like it's so cool when he talks about it. And then you try to do it, and you're like, this isn't as cool as he made it look.
Yeah. Imagine a 6'5" Finn Balor from South Africa. That's basically.
Yeah. That is kind of good. Yeah, and he's just like, he's one of those guys. I always say he's one of those guys, like, if you're hanging out with your friends, you're like, "Hey, do you guys want to do karaoke?" And everyone's like, "Nah." And he's like, "Hey, guys, you want to do some karaoke?" And they're like, "Yeah, karaoke sounds great." And you're like, "I hate you, David. Right. Everyone does what you want to do."
So pretty.
He's actually like, "Hey, guys, want to do some karaoke?" Because he's big, too.
Yeah.
It's like... One time he told me, I love David to death. One time I was like, "Man, it's so hard to eat healthy. I have such a sweet tooth." And he's like, "If you have a sweet tooth, this is a really easy way to deal with the sweet tooth but eat healthy. All you have to do is sprinkle a little protein powder in some plain oatmeal, and it's delicious." And I'm like, "Shut up, Dave." That sounds terrible.
Yeah, exactly. Have a Snickers, bro.
Like, that is not going to help someone with a sweet tooth. Like, you have no idea.
Yeah, what you do, right, is get some oats.
Looking at the teams that Dylan sent, I liked the Dragons because we had an XFL team, the Seattle Dragons. I liked the Sea Eagles because I'm a Seahawks fan, so Sea Eagles sounds good, but it sounds like Seagulls.
Seagulls.
So I don't know about all that, but yeah, this is a fun show. Charlene asked if we'd stay up till 3 a.m. to watch WWE or AEW. It depends, possibly. I think if it was a big show like a WrestleMania, and if I had some friends that wanted to watch it with me, I would be down to do it and make it like a thing. Because that happened with like the World Cup. I'd get up with some buddies and we'd go watch a game.
Yeah.
And then, again, going back to when I used to drink, you'd be like, "Oh yeah, whatever. It's 4 a.m. Let's drink some."
We're off to the pub, mate. I think I would go to bed early and get up for like even the Saudi shows on the West Coast. Those Saudi shows start at like 9 a.m. Right? Mm-hmm. So I mean that's not the same thing. But getting up early for wrestling or staying up late for wrestling, but the show has to be good. So it has to be like SummerSlam or better for me to even try doing that. But I drinking at 4 o'clock in the morning is weird. Okay, in Orange County, when I was in college, in Orange County, you can't sell alcohol between the hours of 2 a.m. and 6. The pubs can be open, but you can't drink between those 4 hours. So we will go to like the World Cup, and we'll put our orders in like at 4:30, and just like wait at the clock. The game's going on, like, yeah, I hope you win. Wait for the clock to strike 6. Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing like drinking in sports, I tell you. It's not as fun when you're not drinking sports, that is. I have Historically, the
Roosters?
Broncos are a strong team. Even the Roosters, and I don't like them. Actually, the Rooster, you were the one pitching me the Roosters earlier, right? Because I was thinking I kind of like the Rooster, just the name. I like the Rooster.
Yeah, it seems pretty bold to name yourself after a bird. That like
Yeah,
doesn't
especially since my last name's Farmer. You know, farmers have roosters. It all
Done.
plays together.
East to win.
You know, East. Sure, East to win. Is that their phrase? Is that what they say?
Yeah.
Yeah, Seahawks always say "Go Hawks," but I always like to go "Go."
Like there's that team in the XFL called the St. Louis Battlehawks, and their thing was always "caw." So they were the annoying fan base, "caw." And towards the end, or towards the Corona break, they had shirts that said "Caw is the law," and I was like, ugh. If I ever own a team, no bird names. No, I'm done.
It was more fun doing the caw thing when Seattle was a bad team. Like, it was fun to go to the bar and when they were bad, and then they'd be losing by like 21 points, and they would score a field goal, and I'd be like, caw! You know, and being obnoxious. When your team's good, being obnoxious just feels like a jerk. You know, like, it's not as fun when your team is good to be obnoxious.
Yeah, let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets. Right now the Seahawks, they're good. They'll probably make the playoffs, but they probably won't go super deep in the playoffs every year. That's kind of where they're at right now, which, hey, I'll take it. I always say 8-8. You get to 8-8, I'm happy. As long as you get to 8-8, I'm a happy man. I'm easy to please. Just give me a 50-50 win-loss record, and I will be happy. My thing is, I don't know if I've told you this. I don't buy – if you don't get to at least 50-50, I will not buy merchandise from you. I won't buy your shirts. I won't buy your hats. I won't do any – I'll keep the ones I have. But that's my way of telling the team I don't accept less than 50%. I'm sure they're counting their billions of dollars.
I know.
We're one shirt shy.
Do we have a 47% success rate, please?
There's a few years though. By the way, my shirts were getting pretty old or pretty gross because I wasn't buying them because they went a few years without winning. You know what? I was gonna save this, but I'm gonna use it even though we're a little bit over. Something that Drew McIntyre talked about on Raw. I want to cover this with you. He bragged about how he beat Brock Lesnar, and it seems like Seth Rollins always talks about how he beat Brock Lesnar, and Roman Reigns talked all about how he beat Brock Lesnar. Is in the WWE, is beating Brock Lesnar bigger than being the champion?
I hate you.
I was going to let you out of here without that question, but I decided to change it.
Man. Guys, we should just end it early because you're right. You're right. It doesn't say... On point. On brand. Well played. Because the World Championships have been devalued a bit. Not to say that it's evil now, but we don't really know which one's more important. Universal WWE Championship without fans, we don't know who is more over. The level of talent that are vying for the championships will make no sense if you look at it through a win-loss lens. So it's kind of in flux where we know as a standard, Brock Lesnar is a strong guy who can throw you up and beat you down. So right now, especially, beating Brock Lesnar is a nice gold standard to say this guy is legitimate. And it pains me to say it.
Why do we not feel that way about Goldberg when he comes in? Honest question. Like, just from a mathematical, like, they're both guys who only show up every now and again. They're both guys that kind of just squash people quickly when they have matches, and they lose quickly when they have them. Why do you feel like we don't feel the same way about Goldberg?
How many ways can Goldberg win a match?
1. 2.
1.5.
Suplex. Yeah.
Jackhammer, spear. That's it. And that's the problem with Goldberg. And his matches don't last that long. But Brock Lesnar has won along with guys like Balor and Rey Mysterio. He can F5 you. He could do that triangle choke. He can do that arm bar. I mean, he's a threat on strikes. He's a threat and suplex machine, suplex city. I mean, he has a high impact. He can do basically everything. Granted, I always go, oh man, Brock. Okay, dude, At least go to the gym. Don't skip leg day anymore. Give me a reason to be like, oh my gosh, you're intimidating. But Brock was always more well-rounded than Goldberg, and he sold more than Goldberg. And even though he gets promoted as someone who doesn't work as much, he does work more than Goldberg. So by all metrics, he is a much bigger deal. Even though I do love Goldberg's theme song a lot more.
His theme song is sick.
Do, do, do.
Dun, 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 dun. I think also the fact that Brock beat Undertaker and John Cena in dominating fashion is something that is still on him today. I think that those two things really stuck with him. I think ending the streak, I think really, really mattered. And I think him just being like the first guy that just destroyed John Cena, I think are two things that I think has made him someone who will always be kind of like at their levels, where beating him means a big deal just because of those two things. And I think that shows the power of building people up and having them lose to the right person at the right time.
I was there. Kids were crying in the audience.
For which one? Cena?
With Cena, yeah. It's the SummerSlam, 2016 or 17?
Yeah,
it was,
I'm bad. Yeah. I'm bad with the years and days.
It was in LA. It was in LA though, so he totally destroyed him.
Yeah, that's the one thing I'm bad with, like wrestling trivia. Is if you ask me like what WrestleMania something happened, I can never remember like what year or what number it is, or like I can usually get like the area, like kind of the timeline, but like Brock versus Goldberg, I think was that 20 or 25?
That was See, my pet peeve is that they stopped counting numbers of WrestleMania, so that messes me up. But I want to say 2018 was that WrestleMania, so 33. I don't know.
Brock Goldberg was that? No, I'm sorry. I was thinking of the one with Stone Cold as the ref.
That was 20. That was WrestleMania 20. That was Madison Square Garden, and they numbered that one.
Okay. Yeah, the only reason I remember that is because I remember the logo had the number, and it was like a pretty number. Like it was like the two X's.
Yep. SummerSlam 2014. Yep.
I was on holidays in LA and was there too. You guys were both at SummerSlam.
Because SummerSlam was awesome.
It's so funny how small the world is. I still think it's funny. Roger, who does the AW after show with me on Wednesdays, we found out randomly we both were at the same. This is so embarrassing. We were at the same Britney Spears concert.
I didn't see that coming at all. Speaking of SummerSlam, Britney Spears is what?
We both went and saw her second to last show in Vegas. Before we even knew each other, we figured it out. I don't know how we were talking and how we ended up putting it together that we were both there. And then we saw pictures of each other. Like we showed her pictures like, yeah, this is where I was. And we were actually like very close to each other too, but it was before we knew each other. So it's funny. Those weird random things about how you like may have seen people
Okay, hold on. Wait. Are you a Britney Spears fan, or were you dragged there? That's a question I have.
So it's a long story. It started
now it's a long story.
It started off as kind of a sort of a funny joke, like, oh, let's go see Britney Spears, and me, the missus, she wanted to go, and my buddy Andy Rossi, who you know as well, his missus wanted to go. And so we were going to go together, but me and Andy were like, well, if we're going to do that, we're going to go to the UFC show, too. We're going to see both of them together. But honestly, I had more fun at that Britney Spears show. It was a good time, man. I had a Britney Spears shirt on. We were we had a good time. She does a really good show. Like, she's built for Vegas. She's someone who, I know she's done now, but she's actually built for Vegas. Like, her shows and her performance and stuff, it was a good time.
Wow.
She has a lot more hits than I remember. I every time I'd be like, well, this must be the last song because this is all of her hits. And then
1, 2, 3, oh!
Yeah.
Oh, man. Deep cuts, all right.
Yeah, well, speaking of deep cuts, I think that's going to do it for Jack and Flobo Wrestle with Your questions today. But I have, I'm just going to end it. I had a good question. Should I do the question? I have one more question for you. You get to decide your fate. Do you want the question?
Yeah, we'll do it quickly. Let's do it. All the questions.
Quickly. You get to choose. You. I'm going to give you an option. It's a choose kind of scenario.
Hit
you
me.
can get $10 million.
Done.
But,
that one. Oh.
But you have to watch the entirety of your life with your mom and dad. Every single moment, you and your parents sit together and watch it.
Oh man, there's gonna be a lot of porn episodes. Or
Yeah. So that's it. Do you take the money? But you got to sit next to your mom as she watches you watching porn.
I'm going to say yes because they will fall asleep super quickly. So that's. Don't wake up, Ma. Let's take the money. What about you, Jack?
Yeah. So you could all your deepest, dirtiest, darkest secrets. You could sit next to mom and dad and watch that happen, huh?
My parents are 70, dude. They're pretty old. It's fine.
I don't know if I could do it. I don't know if I could do it.
Oh, man.
I want to say yes, but I don't know if I could pull the trigger.
It's $10 million, baby.
I think I would say yes, and then we'd probably be watching, and then like I'd know a certain thing was coming up or whatever, and I'd probably go, oh wait, no, I back out.
Yeah. Or like, you're doing it again? Yes. Again? Yes. Yes. Quarantine.
Oh, that's too funny. Okay, well, that was my last question. That's it for us, I promise this time. Flobo, where can we find you online?
Yo, you can find me right here in this YouTube channel. Please like, comment, subscribe, tell a friend about it. And on Twitter, at Flobo Boys on Twitter, at Flobito on Instagram, and at Flobito.com. June 3rd, I'm releasing my first ever comedy song. It's called Alone in the Club. June 3rd, available on Spotify. And I'm laughing because this entire time I would say, hey guys, follow me at Flobo Boys on Twitter and at Flobito on Instagram. It never occurred to me to park Flobo Boys on Instagram. So I parked it. It's empty, but I have that too. So check me out, be my friend, and we'll talk about wrestling and whether or not I'll show my parents what I'm doing after this show.
You know, soon you might be able to find me at Flobo Boys across all social media.
Yeah, if a man is lucky.
Yeah, I am waiting to hear that track. I'm waiting to hear those bars from Flobo.
There's like 4 bars. That's it. It's literally like 2 bars of chorus.
And of course, I'm Jack Farmer. You can find me at jackcfarmer.com as well as at Real Jack Farmer across all social media, as well as the AEW Dynamite After Show every Wednesday at 8:15 Pacific Standard Time on AfterBuzz TV with Anissa Barr, who was in the chat earlier. You can also find me on Mondays with this guy, Flobo, 9:15 Pacific Standard Time on AfterBuzz TV, chatting about WWE Raw. And of course, wrestling with your questions. Now, wrestling with your questions, feel free to send in as many as you want. They don't have to be wrestling. Wrestling's always fun, of course. That's kind of our wheelhouse. But if you have questions like that old $10 million, but you got to watch it with your mom and dad, I like those kind of questions. Those are always fun. Those are always silly. Send us those. We would love to hear those kind of questions. I'd love to hear Flobo's take. I want to know what kind of weird things his mom and dad would have seen him doing. But that's it from us. As always, folks, until next time, do your best.